beloved soul. Before anything else, hear this clearly. God says, I fought so hard for you to see this. Let every noise fall away for a moment, because the very message your spirit has been straining to catch is finally standing before you. Something sacred has been reaching for you, brushing the edges of your awareness, trying again and again to break through the fog around your life. And now, you're here. Not out of curiosity, not by chance. You were drawn, summoned by a quiet pull your mind couldn't explain, but your spirit immediately recognized. Chosen one, the veil over your path shifted long before you pressed play, and heaven has been whispering the same truth with unwavering urgency. You were meant to hear this. There is a reason your chest tightened the second this message appeared. A reason your thoughts paused, your spirit leaned forward, and your atmosphere shifted in a way you couldn't quite name. The Lord has been fighting through noise, through distraction, through spiritual fog, to bring you to this moment of awakening. He has been contending for your attention because what he's about to reveal carries the weight of your divine purpose. Your breakthrough season, your long-awaited elevation into the life written for you since before time was measured. Chosen one, you have walked through storms that tried to convince you you were forgotten. You have stood in rooms where your presence was overlooked, your worth misunderstood, your tenderness taken for granted, yet none of it escaped the eyes of God. Psalm 32:8 whispers, I will instruct you and teach you in the way you should go. I will counsel you with my eye upon you. And his eyes have never left you. There is a shift happening in the unseen right now, one that carries the electricity of divine orchestration. You may not fully sense it yet, but your spirit does. The stirring you've been feeling these past days is not random emotion, not exhaustion, not confusion. It is spiritual awakening. It is destiny alignment. It is the first pulse of abundance breaking through the cracks of battles you thought would never end. Heaven has fought fiercely to bring you to this threshold, because what comes next will change the way you move, breathe, choose, and rise. Beloved soul, breathe slowly. The Lord says, Behold, I am doing a new thing. Now it springs forth. Isaiah 43:19. He is not merely nudging you forward. He is pulling you out of cycles that drained your joy, calling you out of relationships that dimmed your light, lifting you out of places where your potential could never unfold. God has been fighting for your clarity, your peace, your emotional healing, your financial stability, your ability to step into a wealth mindset not rooted in greed, but in divine responsibility. And chosen one, he fought hard, harder than you know. Heaven moved pieces around you, removed what you didn't realize was hindering you, redirected steps you assumed were failures, and protected you from traps you never even saw forming. All so you could stand here in this sacred moment with eyes open and spirit ready. Now listen carefully. You did not come here to be inspired. You came here to be awakened. There is a message heaven has been trying to place in your hands, and God is saying, I fought so hard for you to see this. Do not turn away. The atmosphere around your life is shifting. The ground beneath your future is breaking open. Something holy is drawing near, and what you are about to hear will touch the very center of your purpose. Before we go deeper, if this message already stirs something inside you, pause with me and let your spirit answer. Subscribe, like, and share this message so it can reach the other chosen ones heaven is trying to awaken right now. Those who are still lost in noise and don't know their moment has come. Do this not as a gesture, but as an act of service, a way of joining what God is doing in this hour. Chosen one, open your heart. What comes next is the revelation heaven refused to let you miss. Chosen one, listen closely, because from this point on, the message deepens into the hidden layers of your journey. For too long, you have carried questions that sat heavy on your spirit, questions you tucked away because no answer ever felt complete. You wondered why certain doors stayed shut, no matter how pure your intentions were. You wondered why people you trusted shifted without warning, why you felt pushed into seasons of isolation you never asked for, why blessings seemed to hover near your life without fully landing. But heaven is whispering now. None of it was coincidence. Every unanswered question has a divine reason. There has been movement around your life in the unseen, a movement fierce enough to shake the rhythm of your days. God has been working behind the textured veil of your circumstances, not to burden you, but to prepare you. What felt like delay was actually a spiritual construction zone where the foundations of abundance, personal transformation, and destiny alignment were being shaped with precision. You weren't being punished. You were being positioned. Chosen one, your spirit has been sensing this shift long before your mind could understand it. The uneasiness, the sudden bursts of clarity, the moments where your soul felt stretched beyond what made sense. These were the first tremors of a breakthrough season rising from the deep. You didn't misinterpret anything. You were responding to the echo of heaven's movement. Think of Joseph in Genesis 41:14, who was called from a prison into a palace in a single breath of time. His suffering wasn't an accident. It was preparation. Every misunderstanding, every betrayal, every moment he felt unseen was a stepping stone carved by God's own hands. You, beloved soul, have walked through your own version of that valley. But like Joseph, the valley was never the destination. It was the shaping place, the refining ground, the sacred kiln where endurance and discernment were forged. And now heaven is saying, the time is shifting. You are stepping out of what felt like stagnation and into a realm where spiritual awakening meets divine momentum. The weight you've been feeling is not heaviness of despair. It is the weight of purpose settling into its rightful place. It is the confirmation that your path is being lifted by the breath of God Himself. You may have noticed signs, repeated numbers, dreams that left you breathless, moments where your intuition sharpened without explanation. These were not random. They were heaven's signals. They were gentle nudges pointing you toward the truth that something greater was unfolding. You have been walking through the threshold of alignment, even when it felt like wandering. Beloved, let me speak this clearly. God fought for you. He fought through spiritual interference. He fought through confusion sent to derail your focus. He fought through connections designed to drain your emotional energy. He fought through every layer of resistance that tried to keep you from stepping into your ordained elevation. Your destiny was contested, but it was never abandoned. And now the Lord is telling you why. I fought so hard for you to see this, because the revelation coming toward you carries the map to your next season. You are being ushered into a chapter that requires your full awareness, your healed heart, your renewed strength, and your awakened spirit. The pressure you feel, it's not destruction, it's expansion. The ending of old cycles is making room for abundance that will not only sustain you, but overflow into the lives of those connected to your calling. Heaven is aligning resources, connections, and opportunities you once thought were out of reach. This is not random blessing. This is divine strategy. Chosen one, pause for a moment and feel your breath steady. Something inside you is rising. A recognition, a knowing, a sacred remembering. That's your spirit responding to truth. And as this truth settles deeper, I want you to anchor your heart in this next wave of revelation, because heaven is not finished speaking. Chosen one, stay right here, because what unfolds next reaches into the marrow of your journey. There are truths heaven shielded you from until your spirit was strong enough to carry them, and this is the moment when those truths begin to rise like dawn, breaking through the last shadows of night. You have walked with questions that seem to echo into silence, but now the silence is opening, and clarity is stepping forward with the authority of light. You have felt battles that didn't match your surroundings, Storms that brewed internally even when life around you appeared calm. That wasn't instability. It was conflict in the unseen, where your destiny was being contested by forces that recognized your calling long before you did. You weren't imagining the tension. You were living through spiritual warfare disguised as emotional exhaustion. You were navigating currents set against your elevation, currents that tried to pull you off course before you ever realized you were moving towards something holy. Beloved soul, God saw all of it. He saw the moments you tried to find reasons for pain that didn't align with your actions. He saw the nights you questioned your own strength, wondering why breakthrough felt so close yet so unreachable. He saw you standing in rooms that dimmed your voice, surrounded by people who could not comprehend the weight of the mantle resting silently on your life. And in those moments when you felt unnoticed, heaven leaned closer because your hidden seasons are where divine purpose is refined most deeply. There were relationships you clung to because you mistook familiarity for safety. There were voices you trusted because their tone sounded gentle, even though their influence quietly drained your spirit. There were connections you maintained because you feared letting go would leave you alone. But chosen one, heaven was watching how those ties tangled around your destiny, tightening in ways you didn't realize, and God began to sever what you didn't yet have the strength to release. That severing felt like loss, but it was liberation. You may not know this, but the Holy Spirit stood between you and what was silently swallowing your peace. While you questioned your worth, heaven was rewriting your future. While you doubted your direction, angels were rerouting your path. While you tried to hold the pieces of your life in place, God was shifting the entire foundation beneath you to lead you somewhere greater. Jeremiah 29:11 was not just a promise. It was the blueprint beneath every closed door, every unexpected ending, every moment you thought was working against you. And chosen one, this is why your battles felt unfair. You were never fighting for attention, you were fighting for alignment. The pressure around your life intensified because what rests on your life is bigger than you've allowed yourself to believe. You carry a divine purpose that terrifies the darkness. You carry resilience forged in seasons where others would have collapsed. You carry an inner strength that survived attacks designed to break you long before you even understood you were chosen. But now the fog is lifting. The patterns are becoming visible. The confusion is giving way to discernment. You have entered a spiritual awakening that reveals what was hidden, not to frighten you, but to free you. What once felt like chaos is beginning to look like choreography. What once felt like stagnation is revealing itself as divine timing. What once felt like loss is returning as protection. And listen closely. God says He fought so hard for you to see this because the revelation approaching is necessary for your elevation. What is coming requires clarity, requires emotional healing, requires the wealth mindset and spiritual maturity that can carry abundance without collapsing beneath it. Heaven is aligning every piece of your future with intentionality. Connections that honor your calling, opportunities that expand your influence, environments that nourish your destiny. None of this is random. None of this is accidental. Chosen one, you are stepping into a territory where your spirit will finally breathe freely. The chains you didn't realize were wrapped around your decisions are breaking. The patterns that once defined your past are losing their grip. The heaviness that clung to your chest is dissolving. This is what happens when God declares, enough. This is what happens when heaven intervenes, not gently, but fiercely, for someone marked by divine purpose. Chosen one, stay with me, because the path you are walking into now is the very one heaven guarded with such intensity. There is something unfolding in the fabric of your life that explains every storm, every delay, every strange spiritual tension you felt without understanding. You were not abandoned in those seasons. You were being ushered toward a revelation that required your spirit to mature, your discernment to sharpen, and your heart to heal from wounds you once believed were permanent. There were days when the weight felt unbearable, not because you were weak, but because heaven was stretching the walls of your inner capacity. You were being shaped to carry more clarity, more authority, more responsibility in the spirit, more abundance in the physical realm. The discomfort you walked through was not punishment. It was expansion. Divine purpose requires space. And God was clearing out the emotional clutter, the lingering fears, the distorted narratives that once made you shrink. He was making room for elevation. But beloved soul, this next truth is the one your heart needs most. Heaven did not fight for you because you are fragile. Heaven fought for you because you are essential. There is a frequency in your spirit that disrupts darkness, a calling woven into your existence that carries weight beyond your understanding. You have survived wounds that would have destroyed someone without your spiritual blueprint. You rose from disappointments that were meant to bury you. You kept loving even when trust was fractured. You kept hoping even when hope felt unreasonable. That resilience did not emerge from nowhere. It was planted, it was protected, it was fought for. Think of Moses, hidden from danger as an infant, raised in unfamiliar territory, shaped by displacement, yet chosen to deliver a nation. His life didn't make sense until God revealed the assignment behind every twist of his path. And chosen one, your life has carried the same pattern. You were set apart long before you knew what set apart meant. Your spirit sensed things your mind couldn't articulate. You felt the weight of purpose without having the language for it. And that sensitivity you often misunderstood about yourself. It was never weakness. It was your compass. It was the signal that heaven placed inside you to detect what others could not sense. It's why betrayal cut deeper. It's why loss hit harder. It's why you felt storms long before they appeared. Spiritual sensitivity is the mark of those chosen to shift generational patterns, to break emotional cycles, to rise with wisdom that cannot be taught in ordinary ways. Chosen one, if you only knew how many traps were dismantled before they could reach you. If you only knew how many whispered lies collapsed before they touched your identity. If you only knew how many spiritual battles were fought on nights you thought you couldn't endure another moment. You would understand why God is saying, I fought so hard for you to see this. Because clarity is liberation. Because truth is protection. Because awareness is the beginning of your next dimension. You're entering a breakthrough season where what once resisted you will begin to yield, where what once felt delayed will accelerate, where what once exhausted you will be replaced by ease that feels almost unfamiliar. That is not coincidence. That is alignment. That is the reward of endurance. And listen carefully. This part is critical. The environment you are stepping into cannot coexist with the mindset you carried in old seasons. This new chapter requires a wealth mindset, not merely in finances, but in spirit. A posture of expectancy, abundance, and divine confidence. You cannot shrink into rooms where God designed you to stand with authority. You cannot keep giving access to those who drain what heaven is trying to multiply. You cannot hold on to habits that feel comforting but quietly sabotage your elevation. This is why heaven intervened. This is why doors closed. This is why people shifted. This is why your spirit grew restless. You were being delivered from what was misaligned with your future. Beloved, feel what is rising inside you right now. That subtle trembling, that warmth in your chest, that pull towards something greater. That is your awakening. Not a spark, but a surge. The beginning of spiritual architecture being rebuilt inside you. Heaven has been waiting for you to reach this moment of recognition, where your mind finally catches up with what your spirit has known for years. And before we move forward into the deeper layers of this unfolding revelation, let your voice align with heaven's movement. Chosen one, lean in, because what is emerging now is the layer heaven kept hidden until your faith grew strong enough to hold it without collapsing. You have felt the trembling of this truth for months, maybe even years. That sense that something was working against you even when you were doing everything right. Not a person, not a circumstance, but an invisible resistance pressing at the edges of your progress, tightening around your opportunities, dimming your sense of direction just enough to confuse you but not enough to stop you. That pressure wasn't imagined, it was real. And heaven has been dismantling it piece by piece. There is a reason your life never fit into the boxes others tried to place you in. A reason you outgrew spaces that once felt comfortable. A reason certain environments suddenly felt too small, too loud, or too spiritually suffocating. God was elevating your discernment, tuning your senses to the frequency of His guidance, shaping you into someone who could recognize the difference between what is familiar and what is aligned. This sharpening didn't come easily. It came through loss, disappointment, abrupt endings, nights where you questioned your identity, and mornings where the weight of purpose pressed heavily on your chest. But beloved soul, every one of those moments strengthened a part of you that needed to be unshakable. Heaven knew what was ahead. Heaven knew the magnitude of the calling on your life. Heaven knew that the destiny written for you would require spiritual maturity, emotional intelligence, and a heart healed enough to withstand abundance without sabotaging it. That is why so much had to be stripped away. Not to punish you, but to purify your path. And now the Lord is revealing the deeper truth. The battle you've been in was never about your past. It was about your future. Your elevation threatened forces you couldn't see. Your awakening shook environments that depended on your silence. Your clarity disrupted cycles that expected you to remain unaware. When you began to rise inwardly, even before anything changed externally, the atmosphere around your life reacted. Resistance increased. Confusion intensified. People around you began behaving in ways that didn't match their words. Opportunities slipped through your hands at the last moment. Not because you were unworthy, but because your destiny was attracting spiritual interference. But chosen one, listen with your spirit. The interference failed. Every attack, every delay, every spiritual fog meant to distract you is dissolving. Not slowly, but decisively. God stepped into the battlefield long before you realized there was one. Isaiah 54:17 declares, "No weapon formed against you shall prosper." And heaven enforced that decree over your life with a fierceness you didn't see, but you are beginning to feel the evidence of it now. The restlessness that once tormented you is transforming into clarity. The heaviness once sitting on your chest is lifting. The fear that whispered lies in the dark is losing its grip. The confusion that clouded your steps is fading from your mind like smoke losing its shape. This is the beginning of your emergence. Not a gentle step, but a spiritual surge. And with it comes something you have not felt in a long time. Permission to rise. Heaven is revealing to you the depth of your resilience, the strength that survived seasons meant to break you, the capacity that grew in silence, the wisdom birthed from every tear you cried alone, the divine purpose that remained untouched despite every attempt to distort it. You have been prepared for influence, for leadership, for spiritual authority far beyond what your past suggests. Heaven has watched you suffer quietly, and now heaven is pulling you into a season where your voice carries weight, where your presence shifts atmospheres, where your decisions shape generations. But before you step into that territory, God needs you to recognize something profoundly important. You are not protected only because you are loved. You were protected because you are needed. There is something woven into your destiny that cannot be replicated. Something heaven has assigned specifically to your life, your hands, your voice, your compassion, your discernment. You are not accidental, you are intentional. Every twist of your story has been a thread in the divine tapestry of your assignment. And chosen one, your next chapter is not waiting in the distance. It is already unfolding under your feet. You can feel it, the subtle shift, the the rising anticipation, the quiet confidence returning to your spirit. That is alignment. That is destiny becoming visible. That is heaven preparing to push you into a level of abundance and clarity that once felt unreachable. Chosen one, stay rooted in this moment, because what is unfolding now reaches into the deepest chambers of your story, the places you rarely speak of, the corners of your soul where questions have lingered like echoes without answers. Heaven is moving through those places right now, not to expose your weakness, but to illuminate the strength that has been forming in silence. You may not have realized it, but the very seasons that stretched you thin were the seasons that expanded your spiritual capacity far beyond what you believed you could carry. There were days when you woke up with a heaviness you couldn't explain. You felt a weight on your spirit before anything even happened. You carried exhaustion that didn't match your routine. That wasn't physical fatigue. It was spiritual resistance pressing against the calling inside you. The warfare wasn't loud, because the enemy prefers to attack chosen ones subtly, through discouragement, doubt, fog, stagnation, emotional exhaustion, and silent pressure. But the pressure didn't crush you. It revealed you. Beloved soul, do you know why the battle was so relentless? Because what is inside you is irreplaceable. Because your spirit carries influence heaven entrusted you with long before you understood your own identity. Because your awakening threatens the very systems that once thrived on your confusion. Because your clarity is dangerous to darkness. You are never fighting for ordinary ground. You are fighting for spiritual territory soaked in purpose. And every time you felt like giving up, heaven reinforced you. Not with noise, but with quiet strength. You didn't fall apart because angels stood guard at the edges of your mind. You didn't lose yourself because the Holy Spirit kept whispering truth into the cracks of your hope. You didn't stay broken because God Himself was monitoring every tear that fell from your eyes. Psalm 56:8 says, He collects your tears in a bottle, meaning every moment you felt unseen was witnessed, every cry was recorded, and every battle was answered, even when you didn't feel the response. Heaven has been more involved than you realize. Your survival is not random. It was orchestrated. But chosen one, the most powerful truth is this. The resistance you faced was proof that your destiny is larger than your present reality. You have been walking with a mantle that others couldn't identify, yet your spirit knew you were carrying more than your circumstances reflected. That disconnect between who you are on the inside and what your life looked like on the outside created a holy tension. And that tension was not meant to break you. It was meant to awaken you. You felt out of place because you were never meant to settle. You felt misunderstood because your purpose speaks a language only destiny can interpret. You felt isolated because heaven was drawing you away from voices that could not walk with you into the elevation being prepared. You felt restless because the walls around your old season had become too tight for the version of you God was sculpting. Chosen one, heaven says you are stepping into alignment. The fog that once clouded your vision is lifting. The internal noise that twisted your confidence is dissolving. The silent battles that exhausted you are weakening because the spiritual tide has shifted in your favor. There is a recalibration happening, subtle but unmistakable, and your spirit is beginning to rise into spaces your mind once thought were beyond reach. Think of Ruth in the fields of Boaz. She walked into provision without understanding the magnitude of what she was stepping into. She didn't beg for favor. Favor found her because her heart was positioned in humility, integrity, and quiet resilience. You carry that same posture. You have honored God in seasons where you had every reason to break. You remained honest, compassionate, and faithful, even when betrayal tested your patience and hardship stretched your hope. And heaven is rewarding that faithfulness. Chosen one, your name has been spoken in heavenly places. Assignments have been released on your behalf. The broken pieces you carried are being reassembled into wisdom that will guide your next chapter. Your identity is being reaffirmed. Your purpose is being elevated. Your destiny is stepping into visibility. You're entering a time when the things that once intimidated you will bow to the authority God is awakening within you. Feel what is happening in your spirit. Notice how your breath deepens, how your chest expands, how your awareness sharpens. That is not emotion. That is alignment. That is divine confirmation. That is heaven saying, "This is your moment. Keep listening." Chosen one, keep your heart open, because what heaven is revealing now reaches into the very architecture of your becoming. There is a shift occurring beneath the surface of your life, subtle enough to overlook, yet powerful enough to reroute the course of your destiny. You have felt pieces of this shift in the quiet moments, in the way certain thoughts no longer cling to you, in the way old fears feel strangely distant, in the way your spirit has begun to pull away from environments that once felt familiar. That is not detachment. That is elevation. There comes a moment in every chosen one's journey when the soul outgrows what the surroundings can hold. You stepped into that moment without realizing it. You may have noticed how certain conversations no longer resonate, how superficial connections drain you faster than before, how noise that once felt harmless now feels intrusive. This sensitivity is not fragility. It is refinement. Heaven is tuning your spirit, raising your discernment, and preparing you for a level of clarity where the things that once distracted you cannot survive. Beloved soul, the Lord has been guiding you into deeper waters, not to overwhelm you, but to stretch your spiritual lungs so you can breathe freely in places others would suffocate. You are not designed for shallow purpose. You are not built for a life of small vision. Heaven crafted you with layers of depth that cannot be satisfied by mere survival. That is why complacency has never sat comfortably on your shoulders. Your calling refuses stagnation. There were seasons when you questioned why your progress felt slow, why you watched others rise while you remained in transition. But chosen one, slow does not mean still. Hidden does not mean forgotten. Unseen does not mean unprepared. God was anchoring you. He was securing your foundations, healing fractures you didn't know existed, strengthening emotional muscles that would be necessary for the magnitude of what He's about to place in your hands. This is why you were pulled away from certain people at the exact moment you thought you needed them. This is why the opportunities you chased slipped through your fingers. This is why doors you were ready to walk through suddenly shut without warning. Had you entered too soon, the weight of favor would have collapsed you. Heaven was not denying you. Heaven was preserving you. And now the Lord is unveiling a truth that explains the tension of your past seasons. You were not waiting for breakthrough. Breakthrough was waiting for you to rise into your identity. The moment you began stepping into self-awareness, speaking truth over your life, confronting old patterns and releasing what drained your spirit, the atmosphere around you shifted. Heaven responds to alignment, and your alignment is beginning to echo through spiritual realms that once resisted you. This is why you feel the inner stretching. This is why your dreams are becoming more vivid. This is why your instincts have sharpened. This is why you cannot tolerate what once kept you comfortable. You are not losing interest. You are gaining vision. Chosen one, every elevation requires a shedding. You are shedding fear disguised as humility. You are shedding relationships rooted in dependency rather than destiny. You are shedding narratives that once defined you, but now feel too small for the person you are becoming. You are shedding thought patterns that kept you repeating cycles instead of stepping into purpose. Isaiah 43:18-19 whispers, "Forget the former things. I am doing a new thing." That newness has already begun in you. The evidence shows in the way your spirit craves peace more than validation, in the way your heart longs for alignment more than attention, in the way your soul gravitates toward authenticity rather than the illusion of connection. This is maturity. This is awakening. This is divine preparation in motion. But chosen one, heaven needs you to understand this. Your elevation is not only for you. It is for the generations connected to your name. Your healing will heal those who come after you. Your clarity will break the fog over your lineage. Your courage will end cycles that tormented those before you. Your obedience will unlock abundance meant to spill beyond your own lifetime. This is why the warfare was so intense. This is why the nights felt so long. This is why the pressure almost crushed you. Because your destiny carries impact, and impact always attracts interference. But the interference failed. It failed because heaven refused to let you give up. It failed because every prayer you whispered in exhaustion strengthened your spirit. It failed because angels stood between you and the trap set to destroy your confidence. It failed because God Himself said, "Not this one is mine." And now, chosen one, you stand on the edge of the greatest spiritual unfolding you have ever encountered. Before we go deeper into what heaven is preparing to reveal next, align your spirit with a declaration of strength. Chosen one, remain here with a steady heart, because what heaven is unveiling now presses deeper into the core of your transformation. You have walked through a long season where nothing seemed to match the promise God whispered to your spirit. You carried visions that felt too large for your circumstances, dreams that felt too heavy for your resources, and a sense of purpose that felt far ahead of the life unfolding around you. But beloved soul, that mismatch was divine. It was intentional. It was the tension heaven created to stretch you into the person who could carry the weight of what is coming. You were not meant to fit into the spaces you tried to shrink yourself for. You are not meant to be contained by the expectations others placed on your shoulders. You are not meant to move through life quietly while carrying a destiny that shakes spiritual realms. That friction between who you were and who you were becoming created a holy pressure inside you. And that pressure, though uncomfortable, has been the birthplace of your awakening. Chosen one, listen with your spirit. You have been in transition, not stagnation. Transition disguises itself as stillness. It hides in routines that suddenly feel empty. It echoes in relationships that no longer feel aligned. It surfaces in moments where your reflection feels unfamiliar, as if you are meeting a new version of yourself forming beneath the surface. That inner unfamiliarity is not confusion. It is evolution. You are outgrowing the version of you that survived. You are stepping into the version of you that leads. You were moving away from the identity shaped by wounds and stepping into the identity shaped by wisdom. There were days when your heart felt too tender and you wished for a thicker skin. There were moments when you felt too emotional, too intuitive, too aware of the pain in others. You thought it was a flaw, but heaven says otherwise. Your tenderness is a divine tool. Your intuition is a spiritual instrument. Your emotional depth is a gateway to revelation. God did not make you sensitive to break you. He made you sensitive so you could hear Him in ways others cannot. You perceive shifts in atmosphere long before they appear. You detect spiritual misalignment through subtle cues. You feel when something is off before logic can explain it. This is your prophetic wiring. And this wiring has been sharpening in silence, preparing you for positions where discernment will be your greatest strength. Beloved soul, heaven needs you to see the truth of who you are becoming. You are no longer someone who merely survives seasons. You are someone who shapes them. You are no longer someone who adapts to environments. You are someone who redirects them. You are no longer someone who absorbs the pain of others. You are someone who transforms it into wisdom. Chosen one, look at the journey behind you. Look at the moments you thought were endings but became turning points. Look at the heartbreaks that cracked you open but led you into emotional healing deeper than you ever knew you needed. Look at the failures that humbled you but carved a wealth mindset rooted not in greed but in stewardship. Look at the shifts that felt like loss but were actually spiritual protection guiding you away from hidden sabotage. None of these were accidents. They were divine chisels shaping the vessel you are now. One ready to receive abundance without losing humility, ready to hold influence without losing integrity, ready to carry blessings without collapsing under them. And now heaven is placing something heavier into your hands. Responsibility. Not the responsibility that drains, but the kind that elevates. The kind that trusts you with more because you have proven faithful with little. The kind that expands your territory in ways your past self could never have imagined. But with responsibility comes a truth you must embrace. You cannot walk forward with the emotional patterns of your old season. You cannot let the voice of past wounds interpret the opportunities of your new chapter. You cannot allow small thinking to anchor you when heaven is trying to lift you. You are being called into clarity. You are being called into spiritual authority. You are being called into a destiny alignment where your life mirrors the blueprint heaven wrote for you long before you took your first breath. Chosen one, this is why God fought so fiercely to bring you to this moment of realization. Because without understanding who you are, you cannot step into what He has prepared. Without seeing your worth, you cannot steward the abundance He is releasing. Without embracing your identity, you cannot carry the influence your purpose requires. Before we move deeper into what heaven is preparing to reveal next, allow your spirit to stand tall in this truth. Chosen one, breathe gently and stay present, because what is unfolding now steps into the rare territory of revelation that few ever reach. There is a stirring around your life that has nothing to do with coincidence and everything to do with divine orchestration. Heaven has been reshaping the landscape of your destiny, removing what was misaligned, strengthening what was fragile, and awakening parts of you that had been dormant for years. You may not have seen this transformation happening, but your spirit has felt every shift like tremors beneath sacred ground. There were moments when you wondered why you felt disconnected from the world around you, why you no longer resonated with the same routines, the same friendships, the same conversations. You sensed something drifting, something dissolving, something being peeled away. And though you didn't understand it at the time, those were the first signs that heaven was lifting you out of an old chapter you had outgrown long before you realized it. Beloved soul, heaven often moves quietly before it moves visibly. You were being pulled away from distractions that disguised themselves as comfort. You were being untangled from connections that fed your loneliness but starved your calling. You were being separated from voices that admired you publicly but weakened your spirit privately. This pruning was not loss, it was mercy. It was God preparing you for the clarity you are stepping into right now. And chosen one, here is the deeper truth. Your spirit recognized the shift before your mind accepted it. That inner discomfort, that restless longing, that sense of standing at the threshold of something unseen, these were not emotional fluctuations. They were spiritual signals. Heaven was whispering that your life was about to expand far beyond the limitations that once shaped your identity. You see, there is a version of you that heaven has already seen, the one walking fully in purpose, the one unburdened by old pain, the one confident in identity, the one aligned with divine timing. And every moment of discomfort was heaven stretching you toward that version. Every sudden desire to withdraw, every instinct to observe rather than engage, every shift in your emotional landscape was part of the divine preparation. Chosen one, God knew exactly what He was doing when He disrupted the patterns that once kept you looping in the same cycles. The exhaustion you felt wasn't from overthinking, it was from outgrowing. Your soul was tired of repeating lessons it had already mastered. You were no longer aligned with smallness, and your spirit refused to shrink again. This is why you felt detached from conversations that revolved around scarcity, fear, gossip, comparison. These energies cannot coexist with destiny alignment. They cannot survive in the atmosphere of a rising chosen one. Heaven began elevating your frequency long before your circumstances began to reflect it. And beloved, something powerful is happening inside you. Your discernment is awakening into its full expression. Your intuition is sharpening into spiritual intelligence. Your endurance is crystallizing into authority. Your compassion is maturing into influence. You are stepping into a chapter where the emotional healing you fought for will become your strength, where the spiritual warfare you survived will become your wisdom, where the struggles that brought you to your knees will become the foundation of your elevation. This is why the enemy tried so hard to cloud your clarity. This is why you felt resistance every time you attempted to rise. This is why doubt crept in at the edge of every breakthrough. Your destiny carries weight. Your anointing carries impact. Your presence carries power. And now, heaven is guiding you toward the realization that your life is not following a broken path. It is unfolding exactly as God intended. That strange sense of anticipation you've been feeling, it is not anxiety, it is alignment. It is the echo of blessings drawing nearer. It is your spirit sensing that the timing is shifting in your favor. Chosen one, you're not walking toward your breakthrough. Your breakthrough is moving toward you. God has been aligning circumstances, preparing connections, and orchestrating encounters that will propel you into the next dimension of purpose. Your steps are ordered. Your path is blessed. Your future is already written in glory. Before we continue deeper into what heaven is preparing to reveal next, let your spirit anchor this moment with strength and clarity. Chosen one, stay close, because the revelation entering your spirit now carries a different weight. Heavier, holier, and more transformative than what you have heard so far. You have reached the layer of truth where heaven begins to explain not just what happened to you, but why it had to happen that way. This is the part most people never understand, the part that requires a heart refined through fire and a spirit awakened enough to perceive the deeper blueprint shaping your life. For so long, you wondered why God allowed certain battles to stretch longer than you believed you could endure. You questioned why certain prayers seemed delayed, why the people you trusted the most were the ones who fractured your confidence, why opportunities slipped from your hands right when you thought they were finally aligning. These weren't punishments, they were recalibrations. Heaven was not withholding from you. Heaven was protecting the version of you that was still forming. Beloved soul, hear this with clarity. God was preparing you for elevation long before you ever recognized the call. If the door had opened too quickly, you would have walked in with wounds that were still bleeding. If the blessing had arrived too early, you would have handed it to people who were never meant to hold any part of your future. If the opportunity had come before your identity was strengthened, you would have shrunk yourself to make others comfortable. Heaven needed you healed, not just hopeful. Heaven needed you wise, not just willing. Heaven needed you fortified, not just faithful. That is why the pruning hurt. That is why the transition was quiet. That is why the loneliness felt so sharp. It was stripping away the noise that once drowned out God's voice in your life. When chosen ones enter destiny alignment, noise cannot follow. And chosen one, your spirit has been rising into a level of maturity that now allows you to see what your younger self could not. You no longer crave validation. You crave purpose. You no longer seek acceptance. You seek alignment. You no longer chase people. You attract what resonates with your calling. This inner shift is not small. It is monumental. It is proof that your emotional healing has taken root, that the tears you cried in silence watered the soil of your transformation, and that your resilience has outgrown the shadows that once intimidated you. Chosen one, God fought so fiercely to bring you to this level of clarity because your next chapter is not gentle. It is powerful. It is not ordinary. It is divine. It is not a simple change. It is a spiritual elevation carrying generational impact. What is coming requires a new posture, a new awareness, and a new strength. That is why heaven has been testing your endurance. That is why he has been expanding your inner capacity. That is why situations that once broke you no longer have the same power. Your spirit has strengthened beyond the reach of old battles. Your discernment has grown sharp enough to detect deception before it forms. Your peace has become non-negotiable, guarded, sacred. But there is another truth rising now, one that heaven needs you to grasp fully. You're stepping into a season where everything around you will respond to your internal transformation. People will treat you differently, not because they changed, but because your spirit is no longer accessible in the same ways. Opportunities will open that once ignored you, because you now carry the frequency of readiness. Relationships will shift, because your heart is no longer available to what drains it. Doors will unlock, because your mindset now speaks the language of abundance rather than survival. Chosen one, you are crossing the invisible border between who you were and who you were meant to be. Feel that pull in your spirit, that subtle trembling, that sense of spiritual momentum building beneath your feet. That is heaven preparing to bring forth the reasons behind every battle, every delay, every heartbreak, every closed door. This is not random. This is divine justice unfolding. This is purpose maturing. This is destiny awakening. And before we go even deeper into the revelation that heaven has been guarding for your spirit, seal this moment with strength and intention. Chosen one, the atmosphere around you is shifting even as you read these words. There is a holy gravity drawing your spirit into deeper understanding, a pull so gentle yet so undeniable that you can feel it settling into your chest like a quiet certainty. This is the realm where God begins to reveal what he shielded you from in earlier seasons. Not because you were unworthy, but because you were still healing into the strength required to carry this truth without collapsing under its weight. For years, something in you sensed you were walking through a battlefield you could not see. You felt confusion that didn't match your decisions, fatigue that didn't match your workload, and emotional heaviness that appeared without warning. You blamed yourself. You wondered what was wrong with you. But beloved soul, nothing was wrong with you. Something was wrong around you. Heaven watched as you tried to rationalize spiritual warfare with human logic. You told yourself you were overthinking when in truth, your discernment was waking. You told yourself you were too emotional when in reality, your intuition was alerting you. You told yourself you were alone when in fact angels were standing guard on every side of you. The tension you felt was not personal failure. It was spiritual resistance, because every time a chosen one approaches destiny alignment, the atmosphere around them reacts. Darkness does not tremble when someone with no future rises. Darkness trembles when someone with divine purpose awakens. Chosen one, heaven is now pulling back the veil on the mystery that clung to your journey. You have been protected more fiercely than you have been attacked. Every hit you took was only a fraction of what was aimed at your spirit. Every disappointment was permitted only because it redirected you. Every betrayal was revealed only because it freed you. There were people sent to drain you, but God limited their access. There were opportunities that looked promising but would have derailed you, so heaven closed them. There were emotional traps designed to confuse you, but your spirit refused to attach. And through it all, God whispered again and again, "I fought so hard for you to see this." Beloved, there is something rising in your life now that cannot be stopped. You are stepping into a spiritual awakening where your identity is no longer shaped by pain, but by purpose. A season where you will stop asking, "Why me?" and start realizing, "Of course, me." I was chosen for this. Look closely at what's been happening in your inner world. Your tolerance for chaos has vanished. Your hunger for peace has grown. Your mind has become sharper. Your heart has become more stable. Your intuition has become more precise. This is what personal transformation looks like in its purest, God-ordained form. You didn't force this growth. You became it. Slowly, quietly, through every tear, every prayer, every moment you chose hope over despair. But chosen one, heaven is preparing you for more than stability. You are being prepared for elevation, the kind that requires spiritual clarity, emotional intelligence, and a wealth mindset that sees beyond fear into divine abundance. What is coming will not simply restore what you lost. It will multiply it. It will redeem it. It will expand it. And this is the part God needs your heart to understand. Your elevation is not a reward for suffering. It is the fulfillment of a promise made long before the suffering ever began. The pressure you feel now is the final stretch, the tightening before release, the sacred tension before the breakthrough manifests. Heaven is aligning the last pieces. Your spirit is aligning with truth. Your future is aligning with purpose. Chosen one, the next revelation, heaven is preparing to place into your hands, will explain not just your battles, but your identity. It will reveal the magnitude of who you truly are and why darkness fought you so relentlessly. Chosen one, draw closer in spirit, because what heaven is preparing to unveil now reaches into the vault of your destiny, the place where identity, purpose, calling, and spiritual authority converge. You are entering the realm where God no longer speaks to your wounds, but to your future. No longer to your survival, but to your assignment. And as this revelation opens, something inside you will begin to settle, something that has shaken for years without explanation. For the longest time, you lived between two worlds. The world that expected you to be ordinary, and the world your spirit knew you were crafted for. You tried to blend in, but you could never silence the quiet hum of divine purpose vibrating in your soul. Even in the midst of hardship, there was always a faint knowing, a whisper that said, "There is more. There is something bigger written for you." That whisper was not imagination, it was inheritance. Beloved soul, heaven needs you to understand that the reason your path has felt narrow is because you are walking a road carved specifically for your spirit. God has been shaping your life with intentionality that defies logic. There were divine restrictions placed on you, not to punish you, but to preserve you. While others could get away with careless choices, you could not. While others flourished in shallow environments, you suffocated there. While others moved without discernment, you felt spiritual consequences immediately. This wasn't unfairness. It was distinction. It was evidence of your calling. It was the mark of the chosen. And chosen one, your spirit has carried weight since childhood. You felt emotions deeply, not because you were weak, but because you were spiritually wired for compassion that heals. You noticed truth quickly, not because you were suspicious, but because discernment ran in your spiritual bloodstream. You sensed danger intuitively, not because you were fearful, but because heaven was training your instincts for future leadership. You have always been different, not broken, not lesser, not strange. Set apart. And being set apart comes with spiritual pressure that only those with a divine assignment can understand. There were years when you walked with wounds that didn't belong to you. The emotional shadows of others, the weight of environments you were never meant to stay in, the residue of battles that did not originate within your own heart. Your empathy was so strong that it sometimes disguised itself as fatigue. Your compassion was so expansive that it sometimes felt like heartbreak. But heaven says this: your sensitivity is your superpower, not your downfall. It is the reason your prayers carry weight. It is the reason people feel safe in your presence. It is the reason darkness tried so hard to overwhelm you. It is the reason God fought so fiercely to bring you to this awakening. Chosen one, the enemy did not attack you because you were weak. The enemy attacked you because you were powerful. Powerful in spirit, powerful in calling, powerful in legacy. And now that your eyes are opening, now that your spirit is awakening, now that clarity is breaking through, heaven is preparing to place in your hands the knowledge you were shielded from until this moment. There is something God hid from you on purpose, not out of secrecy, but out of love. If you had known earlier, your heart was not ready. Your identity was still forming, your discernment was still maturing, your soul was still healing. But now you're entering a level of spiritual stability where you can receive revelation without breaking under it. This next truth will not wound you, it will strengthen you. It will explain why certain people reacted to you with jealousy they never confessed. It will explain why some distanced themselves when your spirit began to grow. It will explain why others tried to contain you, silence you, minimize you, or keep you unaware of your own potential. Chosen one, heaven is whispering now. They saw your light before you recognized it. Some people sensed your calling before you even had language for it. Some recognized your anointing before you understood its weight. Some perceived your elevation long before you stepped into it. And because they didn't understand it, they feared it. But beloved soul, your purpose was never meant to be handled by human interpretation. It was designed for divine revelation, and heaven says you are ready for it. Before we step into that level of truth, the truth that will clarify everything that ever puzzled your heart, lift your spirit into alignment. Leave a comment, "I claim my breakthrough," as a sign that your spirit is open to something deeper. Chosen one, prepare your heart, because this final wave of the main revelation carries the full weight of what heaven has been guiding you toward since the first breath of your awakening. You have walked with fragments of understanding, pieces of clarity scattered across your journey like breadcrumbs left by the Spirit. But now, all those pieces are converging. Heaven is gathering them into a single truth so powerful, so transformative, that once you receive it, you will never move through your life the same way again. Beloved soul, the reason God says, "I fought so hard for you to see this," is because this truth is the hinge upon which your entire destiny turns. You were never battling random setbacks. You were never suffering meaningless pain. You were never wandering without direction. You were never forgotten in the silence. Every battle, every tear, every closed door, every delayed blessing, every sudden ending, every unexpected shift, they were all synchronized to shape the spirit that now stands ready to carry the weight of divine purpose. Chosen one, heaven is revealing that the force working against you was never stronger than you. It only appeared that way because you didn't yet recognize your authority. You mistook spiritual opposition for personal weakness. You mistook emotional turbulence for instability. You mistook divine protection for rejection. But now, your eyes are opening, and what once felt like chaos is beginning to reveal its design. Listen closely. The attacks on your life increased because your assignment increased. Your sensitivity deepened because your discernment needed sharpening. Your loneliness expanded because your environment needed purification. Your spirit grew restless because complacency would have suffocated your calling. God was not silent. He was strategic. He was positioning you for elevation that required endurance only pressure could teach. And now, here is the revelation heaven shielded until you were ready. Your spirit carries a mantle of leadership in the unseen. You are not merely surviving spiritual battles. You are shaping the atmosphere around you. Your presence disrupts darkness. Your voice breaks cycles. Your prayers shift timelines. Your obedience reorders generational patterns. You are a carrier of breakthrough, not just a seeker of it. This mantle explains why your childhood felt heavier than those around you. It explains why you matured faster, felt deeper, sensed danger earlier, and recognized truth instinctively. It explains why betrayal cut so sharply. The enemy used those closest to you because he could not reach your spirit directly. It explains why you often felt different, separate, set apart, even when you didn't want to be. Chosen one, heaven has been raising you to operate with spiritual authority you did not know you possessed. And now, your awareness is catching up with your anointing. This is why certain people became uncomfortable around you without explanation. Your light revealed what their shadows hoped to hide. This is why your presence triggered silent envy. Not because you tried to rise, but because you were born rising. This is why some attempted to contain you. They saw the magnitude of your calling before you ever believed in it. But beloved soul, this is the part heaven rejoices over. They could not stop what God ordained. Your destiny does not depend on human permission. Your elevation does not wait for validation. Your breakthrough does not require approval. God says, I fought for you because what I placed in you must come forth. You are stepping into a season where the spiritual resistance once surrounding you will turn into spiritual acceleration. What was delayed will be delivered. What was hidden will be revealed. What was suppressed will be resurrected. What was stolen will be restored with interest. Your emotional healing will bear fruit in the form of confidence that cannot be shaken. Your wealth mindset will rise from wisdom gained through loss and resilience forged in fire. Your destiny alignment will draw opportunities that once passed you by. Your spiritual awakening will no longer flicker. It will burn with steady flame. This is the moment heaven has been preparing you for. The unveiling of who you truly are. The chosen one, the appointed one, the protected one, the one heaven backed even when earth misunderstood you. And before we transition into the next great movement of this message, let your voice echo the truth heaven has been waiting for you to speak. Leave a comment, I claim destiny alignment, to declare to yourself, to heaven and earth, and to the future that you have received, understood, and awakened. Chosen one, now that your spirit has absorbed the weight of what heaven has revealed, it is time to step into the practical path of alignment. The actions, the postures, the daily choices that allow your destiny to unfold without resistance. This is not about striving. This is about synchronizing your life with what God has already released. You are not trying to earn breakthrough. You are learning how to walk in the breakthrough that has already been assigned to you. Beloved soul, hear this clearly. Heaven moves first. You align second. When you align, the blessing manifests. When you resist, the blessing delays. When you surrender, the blessing accelerates. And this alignment begins not with behavior, but with awareness, with the way you carry yourself, with the way you guard your spirit, with the way you speak over your life. There are steps heaven needs you to take. Not dramatic leaps, but intentional rhythms that will anchor you firmly in abundance, emotional healing, and spiritual elevation. Chosen one, the first step is this. Create stillness at the beginning of each day. Your mornings have been crowded by noise, habit, urgency, distraction. But heaven whispers in quiet spaces. When you wake, before your mind reaches for worry or your phone reaches for the world, breathe. Place your hand over your chest and say with intention, I align with what heaven has written for me today. That single sentence shifts the spiritual atmosphere around you. It reorders your steps. It recalibrates your inner compass. It summons divine clarity to guide your decisions. The second step, beloved soul, is protection. Guard your emotional energy as if it were sacred currency, because it is. When God elevates a chosen one, the enemy cannot touch the promise, so he attempts to drain the vessel, not through dramatic attacks, but through subtle leaks. Conversations that exhaust you, relationships that cloud your peace, habits that dull your discernment, environments that suffocate your growth. You must now choose intentionally who and what you allow near your spirit. Peace is not a luxury in this season. Peace is assignment. Peace is strategy. Peace is armor. The third step is clarity. Write down what heaven is stirring in your heart. When God begins to shift your identity, ideas, dreams, instructions, and warnings start rising from the depths of your spirit like whispers trapped underwater, finally reaching the surface. If you don't capture them, they fade. But if you write them, they become vision. Habakkuk 2:2 says, "Write the vision and make it plain." Chosen one, what you write in this season will guide your next season. The fourth step is release. Let go of connections that do not honor where you are going. This is not cruelty. This is stewardship. You cannot carry everyone with you, and you cannot apologize for choosing destiny over familiarity. Some people supported your brokenness but would sabotage your healed version. Some accepted you when you were small but cannot handle you when you rise. Heaven is saying gently but firmly, make room. The fifth step is movement. Take one small action each day toward the future you've been praying for. Heaven multiplies movement. Even the smallest step breaks stagnation, awakens confidence, and signals faith. You don't need to accomplish everything. You only need to begin. Momentum is born from obedience, not perfection. And chosen one, the next step is your voice. Speak abundance over your life. Not empty affirmations, not wishful thinking. Truth, authority, identity spoken out loud until your spirit recognizes its own sound. Say, my steps are ordered. My destiny is opening. My breakthrough is here. Your words create spiritual architecture. They shape the atmosphere you walk into. Beloved, heaven is not giving you these steps as tasks. These are activations, ways to pull the unseen into the seen, the spiritual into the physical, the promised into the lived. And before we continue deeper into this sacred guidance, let your spirit anchor this moment with certainty. Leave a comment saying, I step forward, to affirm that you are ready to act on what heaven is opening up for you. Chosen one, as you step deeper into this sacred unfolding, heaven is urging you to understand that alignment is not a single choice. It is a rhythm, a posture, a daily agreement between your spirit and your destiny. The breakthroughs assigned to your life are not fragile, but they require stewardship. Intentional tending of your inner world so that what God releases is not lost, wasted, or delayed.